All right, we are back, and it's time for us to have a look at the Daily Nation, the Business Daily, and of course the Standard at the newspaper review. And we know what has been happening all week long. I mean, it's been all about Gachagua and the impeachment. And of course, it's still the top story right here on the Daily Nation. Development has happened. And I see here impeachment senators told to remain in city as DP 6 court reprieve. I see tall order for Gachagua at the Senate. So the odds seem to be stacked against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua at the Senate, where, like the National Assembly, his boss, President William Ruto, and newfound political partner Raila Odinga also command a majority of members. But the DP can still keep his job if he manages to convince 1/3 or 23 of the 67 MPs in the House to side with him in his fight for survival. And this is a story that is well elaborated on so many pages. That is from page 2 all the way to page 8. And just briefly looking at each of them, page 2 is talking about the stand of some senators on the impeachment motion is still yet known up to date. So we wait to see. But in numbers, important figures and dates in trial. Number 1, we have 281 being members of the National Assembly who voted for the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. 44, the lawmakers who did vote that is against the motion. We have 22. That was on Tuesday evening, we remember, and 22 being the number of cases filed in court opposing the impeachment of Mr. Gachagua. October 14th, the day of the DP and National Assembly should have filed their responses to the Senate. So we wait for that. That should be next Monday. And I see 45, the number of senators required to send Mr. Gachagua home. And more on the same, page 3, DP's lawyers appeal to Koome. I see the National Assembly Senate lawyers argue that the matter of public participation has already been dealt with. So the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua wants petitions seeking to stop his impeachment heard by more than 2 judges, and he says the issues raised in the petitions are very, very weighty. And of course, he's seeking a declaration that for the purpose of impeaching a president or DP, public participation must be in the 290 constituencies, the diaspora, and the 1450 electoral wards where the presidential election took place. Page 4, I see Senate rushes to hear impeachment motion against the DP. Senators resolved to hold the impeachment hearings next week after receiving the resolution of the National Assembly yesterday. Page 5 talks about the North Rift locals fault MPs want Ruto out too. So residents tell leaders to prioritize insecurity, drought, and high levels of poverty. So obviously the residents in some North Rift counties have opposed the move by the National Assembly to impeach Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. And they're saying the DP was elected on a joint ticket with President William Ruto and supporting an impeachment motion tabled by Kibwezi West MP Mwengi Mutuse was ill-advised. So we are seeing most areas actually requesting for the pair in itself to be out because they were elected together. Page 6, how a public backlash forced Mount Kenya MPs to back Gachagua. I see some leaders chickened out and did not show up on the day of reckoning after a hostile reception from voters. So 281. Remember the members of parliament who voted in favor of sending DP Rigathi Gachagua home. But remember, I see here Gatundu North MP Elijah Kinyanjui was the most daring. He declared on October 2nd that he was not moved by the feelings on the ground about the motion. That's a story on page 6. And of course, we have a feature here, page 7, the Phantom Stopgap VP. He has mastered the art of political self-preservation, never hesitating to distance himself from pro-controversy. And from Jaramogi to Gachagua, the troubled deputies. We have seen this being a trend for a very long time, and we continue to follow up on what will arise from this impeachment motion. Page 8, lawmakers are no-show for House Business Day after ouster motion. The law prescribes quorum to be 50 MPs in the National Assembly and 15 in the Senate. But more news aside from that, see page 12. 12, a month in captivity, Bob Njagi speaks out on 32-day nightmare. In the mornings, he would be given a cup of tea for breakfast, while the waste bucket will be replaced by another. At lunch, he was fed a very light meal. Very, very sad. This is a political activist, Bob Njagi, who addressed the journalists at Galaxy Resort in Kitengela yesterday. That's a story on page 12. His woes started on August 18th when he was called by the Safina Party leader, Jimmy Wanjigi. Look at that on page 12. Page 13, interesting here, I see Kenyatta University overtakes UON in World Varsity ranking. No Kenyan university made it to the top 10 in Africa, with a list dominated by South African universities. So I see here local universities have for long been crippled by inadequate funding. But I see here when you underfund university teaching, the result is often worse. Staff to students ratios, problems with marking and evaluation, and inadequate contact hours or class sizes. If you do this, while other countries take the opposite route, your relative position is bound to deteriorate. This is Nick Hellman on the same story. And that's a story on page 13. Page 14, mosquito species is building resistance to DDT. Study shows. That's a story on page 14. And moving down to the property DN2 today, I see designing for special groups. Poor signage, lack of clear directions, and overly complicated layouts cause confusion, leading to frustration or even disorientation. That's a story on pages 24 and also 25 on the DN2 today. A parent's view. Here's what neurodiversity in commercial buildings should look like. And that's definitely about inclusivity, because we see, I also see a very beautiful story here. This is Dr. Fidel Baraza with her daughter Raziela Miracle. We did interview them. Actually, the mom, we interviewed the mom, although I feel like I interviewed the girl as well, because, we were just talking about her. But it's so beautiful. They are actually on the papers today, this morning. And of course, Raziela was crowned brand ambassador for Miss and Miss Inclusive Kenya 2024, and the pageant calls for inclusivity for marginalized people. She is a beautiful, beautiful young lady who has gone through a lot, and it was so good to actually hear her story. You guys can check it out, Dr. Fidel, that is on YouTube. It was not easy, but the experience was an eye-opener. She got an opportunity to interact with the world, and we learned a lot about her interests. This opportunity has given me hope that our society is becoming more inclusive, where children like Raziela can be seen for their potential and contributions, not just their challenges. So this is very, very, very beautiful. A story on page 25 today on the DN2. International news: Sudan Army, RSF target groups fighting famine. I see community kitchens are a lifeline for people trapped in conflict zones. And coming to the back page, I see 104.8 billion shillings health system that just won't work. Those responsible for maintaining new systems say they're just learning how it operates. Well, I wish Gigi was here. We would have delved into that deeper, but definitely it is a disappointing statement, owing to the fact that this is not something that has just started now. It was definitely planned a long time ago. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions, because how can they say that they're just learning how it operates when it is something that they pushed for quite some time? But September 30th is the date this year when the National Health Insurance Fund ceased to exist and the Social Health Authority took over from October 1st. Since then, the patients and hospitals have experienced various system problems. I mean, I would have said NHIF should have been in operation until they figure out how SHIF works. But anyway, we continue to follow up on the same. More on the sports, I see Harambee Stars fly to the Lions' lair, spoiling for a fight. So Firat and Olunga reckon a full strength Kenya will give Cameroon big problems. That's a story on page 35. Page 34, why cases of doping by young Kenyan athletes are on the rise. Pressure to make it to the top, poor advice, and greedy managers cited as reasons behind the worrying trend. And that's it for the Daily Nation. And just briefly coming to the Standard, because most stories have been repeated, especially on the DP. Here they are putting it like this: freshly impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was met with setbacks yesterday after the court, from the 18th time and in the face of 24 cases, declined to suspend the indictment of the country's second in command, even as the Senate moved at breakneck speed to lay ground for his trial that may seal his political fate. More on the inside that has been covered on the Standard today: the ultimate trial. So the Senate moves fast to set next Wednesday and Thursday as the trial dates for DP Gachagua's impeachment. We have Court of Justice here with 22 cases seeking to stop his impeachment. DP Gachagua hits a brick wall for now after the court ruled it will give direction tomorrow. Then 3, we have Kindiki's moment, with all indications showing that DP Gachagua's fate is hanging by a string. Will interior CS Kithure Kindiki be second time lucky? We continue to see and follow up on the same, a new deputy president. So following Gachagua's speedy impeachment by MPs and the impending Senate action, Kenya could get a new DP nominee by Mashujaa Day. All right. Number 5, executive puppet. Impeachment motion against the DP has opened up complexities and behind the scenes nexus between legislature and also the executive. The story on page 2 today is Thierry activist reveals 1 month ordeal, says he ate once a week. Very, very sad. That's a story that we also saw on the Daily Nation about this man, Bob Njagi, who is an activist and who was kidnapped, I think around August thereabout. So we see Bob Njagi was among 3 abductees who were held for 32 days. He says he's planning to sue the state for violating his rights. And page 3, I see end of an era as Baron de la Mer takes a bow. George, okay, that name is quite hard. Sholmond Lee passed away on Monday, October 7th, following an illness. His son Tom caught national attention after he shot and killed 2 people at the ranch. There's a story on page 3. And of course, page 4 all the way to, I guess, page 7 is the same story on Gachagua. So you guys can just go and look at it, have a look at it and get to know what is happening at the moment. In fact, it goes all the way to page 8. And let me look at page 10. I see New Mobile Labs offer solution to practical science learning in JSS. 220,000 shilling being the cost of converting a classroom into a lab, complete with benches, fume chambers, and other essential equipment. And of course, today is Mazingira Day, celebrating Mazingira Day 2024 this very day. So jumping from survival to success is a mistake and will land you back in survival. However, when you contribute beyond yourself at each stage of progression, you are consuming and contributing, which creates a balance. This is from Lee Mukunga. That's an article that is on page 20. Just understanding the theme behind celebrating Mazingira Day this day. And I see here the overlying statement, why service to others really does matter. And that's basically what is being reported on the Standard. But allow me to conclude with the real estate pull out today this morning, and I see Ethiopia's grand plan for capital and its social cost of transformation. That's on page 28 of the real estate. State eyes 100 billion shillings from landlords in tax push. And page 40, on the back page is sports. Olunga not worried by Cameroon's favourites tag. And I see here on page 38, no love lost as Italy honor Belgian date. And I see former Ghana coach Appiah plots downfall of Black Stars. And I see something interesting here on the Business Daily this morning on M-Pesa. M-Pesa pay bills to become KRA tax registers by DEC 25th, by Christmas Day, basically. 2 million mobile money accounts targeted. Ruto's economic advisor reveals discussions to implement the plan. All right. So mobile money, pay bill, and till number accounts will be converted into electronic tax registers from the end of December, to weed out tax evaders and boost revenue by billions of shillings. A senior economic advisor to President William Ruto has said. Oh, wow. I mean, we hope these are things that will be done so that we're not cutting so much taxes on people. But, well, we continue to follow up and see how this goes on. But I see here we have some retirement benefits already written down for Gachagua. And I see Gachagua risks losing lavish retirement perks if Senate upholds impeachment. Well, very interesting here. And the Vice President's retirement package would be a monthly pension of 720,000, lump sum payment of 8.6 million, fuel allowance of 108,000, additional benefits for VP, 2 saloon cars, 1 personal assistant, luxury 4-wheel drive vehicle, a secretary, 3 drivers, an accountant, 2 housekeepers, 2 senior support staff, armed security, and also 2 cleaners. Well, and I see here, had Mr. Gachagua opted to quit and avoid impeachment, Mr. Gachagua would have been in line to also receive a lump sum equal to 12 months of his last pay, security and medical insurance, and so much more. That's a story that is covered on page 2 of the Business Daily. And still here, I see that Kenya eyes big IMF disbursement. So Kenya expects to receive a sizable loan disbursement from the IMF by the end of the year, following the ongoing talks with the multilateral lender. And I see a quote here by Bitangen Demo saying, with timely investment, it is possible to balance environmental sustainability and economic stability. The last word today is from Richard Parsons, an American business executive, saying it's up to you to bring yourself to the attention of powerful people around you. They are not going to find you on their own. Well, that's it for the newspaper review, and I do hope you are now informed, but this also helps us to know how to pray as well. Tune into Hope FM at the top of every hour. We have news updates right here on Hope TV, Dira at 7 p.m. and of course 9 p.m. we have News Watch. Let's take a short break as we look at the video of the day.